Hey there friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Brutus Monroe video. Today I am going to be using the August Stamp Club stamp, isn't that adorable, along with this Knot Slimline Stencil, love that, and we're also going to be using the rectangle foundation dies. I'm going to pull out, as you can see off to the side, I had some midnight cardstock and I did something up to it and I'm just not impressed with it, wasn't happy with it, so we're just going to leave that there and we're going to try again on some white cardstock. So I've trimmed that down. That is about 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and that fits our stencil perfectly. And I'm going to just take a little bit of purple tape and tack down my cardstock to my glass mat. That'll just make it a little bit easier because I'm kind of lazy and I'm not taping down my stencil. I'm holding it down and it seems to be working fine here, but then up there, yeah. This is why you tape down your stencils, folks. Don't do what I'm doing, but I work it out, and I didn't want full coverage of the stencil. I just wanted parts of it to peek through. And then we'll clean up our mess, and then we're going to take that cardstock and we're going to put it into my makeshift splatter box. I have some Cabbage surface spray, and you want to shake the stew out of this stuff, because when you start to hear the little ball bearings rolling around, then you know that you're actually getting there. So I spritz that just on the corners, taking the lid off and making sure I get big splotches, and I'm even kind of pushing the nozzle down halfway and getting more splotches. Make sure you clean off your nozzle when you're done. I have not had any of mine clog, but you just better safe than sorry. All right, I have heat set this because I want to make sure that we are good to go, and I decided to trim it down. I kind of wish I hadn't, but that's okay. You know, we're gonna work with it this time. So I'm trimming down all the white borders off of there because I want that midnight cardstock to show through on the background. And that was cut down to 7 inches by 8.5 inches, and I'm scoring it at 3.5 inches. So this is not like a set measurement for slimline, but this is what I typically do. All right, I'm going to use some alcohol marker cardstock by Brutus Monroe. This stuff is great for, as it says, alcohol marker coloring, but it's also great for colored pencil as well. I'm going to take the scrap that I have and I'm going to put it into my MISTI, and I'll grab my stamp, and I'm also going to grab this sentiment, which says Happiest Halloween, and we're going to ink that up with Raven Detail ink by Brutus Monroe. And I'm going to do that a couple times because I want to make sure that I have a good crisp image. Now, before you go ahead and just start alcohol marker coloring, it's a good idea to hit that with your heat tool just to make sure that your image is dry, or set it off to the side, go do something, come back, you'll be good to go. Now we'll start our coloring. I'm going to pull in my Arteza EverBlend markers. I'm going to start with 8272. I've said this a zillion times. I have the set of 60 EverBlends. Yeah, no, I haven't pulled the trigger yet on the 120. I will one of these days. I will. Because I do enjoy these markers, and I think because I have the smaller set, I don't grab them quite as much as I wish I did. And that's the darkest blue I have. I wanted it to match the midnight, and because I didn't have anything darker to go over the top, I grabbed a gray. And I'll use that, and it works pretty well for adding shadowing. For my pumpkin itself, we're going to start with some 9432. And we'll just color all over. It's interesting because that's supposed to be more of a yellow. I think it's a yellow ochre, but it shows up as a pretty bright orange. At least in this video it does. And then I'll come in with this orange, which is the 9423, and I'll add my shadowing and shading there. And it's interesting how those two colors together actually make this look like a pretty good pumpkin. And that image is so cute. I love it. And it's crazy. Yeah, here we are, beginning of August, and we're already thinking about Halloween cards. Heck, I'm already thinking about Christmas cards. Now, does that mean I'm actually creating them? Not necessarily. All right, so now I'm going to fussy cut this out. You wouldn't have to. Maybe you could use the rectangle foundation dies that I have. That would work too, but I like having that little white border around it, and I've said 100 times, I don't mind fussy cutting. So I'm just leaving that little white border. I'm moving my paper, not necessarily my scissors, and I'm just cutting. These are the Brutus Monroe scissors, and I'm just cutting around that adorable little image. So fun, and the Stamp Club is such a good value. Such a good value. All right, once that is done, we'll get ready to start assembling our card. So I'll trim down my sentiment to start, just using my guillotine trimmer. This has become my favorite way to cut, well, pretty much any straight line. So I'll trim that down. I'm going to leave the, a good amount of it on the right hand side of the sentiment because I can trim that off later. I thought about having my paper be a little bit cockeyed, but then I changed my mind. And here we're going to bring in those rectangle foundations. I want a frame, and so the easiest way to do that is just to line those up on my glass mat, use a little bit of purple tape to hold the dies in place. And then once those are like that, I can use that as many times as I need. So I cut out 2 rectangle frames, and I'm going to keep those 2 together because I may use them again in the future. And I just thought this would kind of be fun. I had this idea in my head to add these little frames in there so it would frame up the background and add even more interest, because sometimes when you're making a slim line, it can be a little bit intimidating to have that much surface area and not be exactly sure what you want to do with it. But you can still use just this one single image and have fun filling up a slimline. It kind of all depends on what you do with your background. So I'll attach down my panel to my card base, and now I'll kind of figure out how I want those frames. And see, waste not, want not. I am using that panel that I originally tried to make and I didn't like, so we just cut that up. Got my first frame down, a little bit of glue on my glass mat, wipe that up. Once we've decided how we're going to have our next frame, we'll glue that on. And then we'll start adhering the rest of our pieces. You could pop these up with foam tape. That would be kind of fun, but I'm just going to use this liquid glue. And then I'll do the same thing with my adorable little pumpkin, my little jack-o'-lantern. And then we'll flip this over and we will cut off all of our excess pieces. Yep, this was fun. And I felt like it really made me step outside of the box, which was, I don't know, I love challenging myself. Love it. That's how you grow as an artist, folks. Just, find a way to challenge yourself and you'll have fun. I did, as you could see, I brought in some of the orange Prism sequins. I will add more later. But right now I'm trying to do the panel on the inside. And so I've stamped out my jack-o'-lantern using the Simon Hurley, that is the traffic cone ink, and I'm really not happy with how I have this whole inside set up, but it is what it is. It's not my favorite part, but that is okay. You're not always going to love it. But I do love that image. That is cute. All right, so that's our inside, and then here's where I decided to add a couple more. It just felt like it was a little too top heavy, and I needed a couple more down at the bottom, so I will tack those down with my crystal katana on my liquid glue. So we've got 5 up top, 7 at the bottom, and that, my friends, is going to finish off this Halloween card, first of the season. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Thanks for stopping by.